Okay, let's go over part 1.1 of StarCraft 2. Okay, so consider the following interface and implementing class. Okay, so we have a worker interface, and it looks like workers are doing things like having a favorite resource and a favorite phrase. Okay, so remember, our interface is a list of things that workers should be able to do, but not a specification of how they're able to do them. However, we do have the option to provide a default implementation for methods and interfaces. Okay, so we're seeing that right here. Default void work. We are specifying how a worker should work. But here's the thing about defaults. They can, of course, be overridden. Is that even how you say it? I don't know. But you can override the default methods within an interface. They're more so just things to fall back on in case we end up having a subclass that doesn't provide specific implementation of something. Okay, so do we need a work method in SCV in order to make an SCV work? So the answer to this is going to be no, okay? The reason why is because we have that default keyword. So even though the work method is not defined in our subclass SCV, we can look it up in the parent class, which is worker, and use it that worker.work method. Okay, so that is part A. Okay, how about part B? What does the following two lines print? Excuse me. Worker SCV will be equal to new SCV, SCV.work. Okay, so what's going on here? Well, remember, we talked about static and dynamic types last week, right? So I like to put the static type in here and the dynamic type in here. Okay, so what's going to happen at compile time is we will look in the static types class for a method with method signature work, and we will find worker.work. And then at runtime, we will check and see if we can upgrade. So we're going to look into the dynamic classes body and see if we can find a method with method signature work. We don't see one, so we're not going to upgrade, and we are just going to use the worker.work method. Okay, so I'm going to say gathering. Now, favorite resource, that is defined here in SCV. And then favorite phrase is also defined. So I'm going to say gathering minerals, woohoo, overtime. Okay, now let's look at part C. So let's suppose we define a new class that inherits from worker and attempt to run a few lines of code. So we are overriding our favorite resource. We are going to have our favorite resource be Vespene gas. Now we say worker probe will be equal to a new probe, and we call probe.work. So do these lines error? Is it a compile time or a runtime error? Okay, so here's the thing about interfaces. We have to override all of the methods within the interface, okay? We have to, we have to implement them in some way, right? If we're claiming that probe implements worker, then it better actually do that. And Java is going to make sure that we are actually doing that. If we are not providing some sort of way to, tell people what our favorite resource is, to say our favorite phrase, if we're not actually implementing those methods, then that's a problem, right? This is not actually happening because we don't have an override for favorite phrase, right? We're missing one. So when I do this down here, I'm going to get a compile time error because I am not overriding favorite phrase. So that's why the answer is compile time error.